Battlefield is a series that I probably will always hold near and dear to my heart. For me, it all started in 2002 with Battlefield 1942. From there, I've played the entire series of games. So I'm basically a Battlefield veteran. I remember the good old days of playing offline local conquest against bots. I remember the community-run servers. I remember actually owning physical copies of video games. And fast forward 23 years in the future with the new release of Battlefield 6, I have to be honest, for the most part, it's actually really fun. The graphics are stunning and the gameplay is explosive and cinematic. But in this video, I wanted to give my thoughts on Battlefield 6, the good, the bad, and where I think it's headed. I will mostly be going over the game from what I experienced in the new BR mode Redsec, since I didn't actually buy this game. So let's start with the positives. One of the first things that I noticed when I jumped right into Redsec is how they implemented movement in this game. I mean, it just has a much more tactical, grounded, and weighty feel to it. This sort of movement system really forces players to be more aware of their surroundings, their timing, their positioning, you know, all the stuff that really does add to a classic Battlefield title. The game's movement system has also been fully upgraded with smoother animations and transitions between stances. The landing mechanics are much smoother, so if you jump or fall from high ground, you'll notice your character doesn't bounce. Your character and the weapons feel weighted. It's not overly realistic that it feels clunky, and not so arcade that it feels like you're flying around the map. They seem to actually hit a solid sweet spot, and honestly, it might be the best movement system we've seen in Battlefield history. I feel like we've been bombarded throughout the years with faster movement mechanics, not just in other shooters, but also in Battlefield. But Battlefield 6 managed to slow things down. Now, for an older guy like me, I really appreciate this. I know some of the younger generation might find this annoying, but that's the point, you know? You can plan, you can think, you can position yourself tactically. It's not just about running, slide canceling, and shooting anymore. It actually feels like combat. And for someone like me who's been playing since 1942, that grounded, measured approach is something I really appreciate. The gunplay in Battlefield 6 is another highlight. I really love the style of gunplay. Skill actually matters when you're using weapons. If you move and shoot, your shots will become less accurate. The same thing happens if you hold down the trigger for too long. Burst firing your weapon actually matters. Your stance also affects how accurate you are. If you're crouched or prone, your shots are noticeably tighter and more consistent. It actually feels like recoil matters in this game, and I absolutely love it. You'll feel this much more with heavier guns like assault rifles and LMGs versus lighter weapons like pistols, SMGs, or even shotguns, but it all feels balanced because the lighter weapons don't really have great damage at range. Sniping also feels really satisfying in Battlefield 6. There's still bullet drop and travel time, but it's less dramatic than in older titles, especially at mid-range. You can't just run around quick-scoping and one-shotting everyone on the map. The mechanics force you to actually play the sniper role properly. There's a certain sweet spot for one-shot kills, but you've got to be at range and time your shots properly. Now, it's not perfect. There is minor bloom issues and recoil inconsistencies, but compared to 2042, it's a huge improvement. Weapons have identity again, and that's something Battlefield had lost for a while. One of the biggest improvements in Battlefield 6 is the way it's gone back to a true class-based system. In Battlefield 2042, that whole specialist system really blurred the lines between roles. Everyone could do everything, and it ended up feeling like a chaotic mix of gadgets and abilities rather than structured team play. Battlefield 6 brings that structure back. Classes are once again tied to weapon types and traits that define how you play. The assault class is your primary objective pusher. Their main trait is called mission focus, which gives them faster progress when capturing objectives. And in Redsec, that translates into being able to secure respawn towers quicker than any other class. The engineer class focuses focuses on taking out enemy vehicles while sustaining and repairing your own. They're equipped with SMGs for close range combat, which makes sense because they're usually up in the fight repairing armor or sabotaging enemy tanks. They feel like the backbone of any squad that wants to control the battlefield's heavy metal side. The support class returns to its roots with LMGs. Support feels more impactful this time around. It's not just about tossing ammo boxes, it's about locking down lanes and providing real covering fire when your squad pushes an objective or a team. And then there's the recon class, which keeps its traditional long range role, but now it ties itself into the new spotting system. Recon players can identify enemy movement early, mark targets, and play that Overwatch role that's so vital in large scale fights. This system finally gives the game structure again. You can feel the teamwork returning. Squads actually rely on each other instead of just stacking specialists with the same overpowered gear. It's what the Battlefield formula was always built on. Interdependent roles that create spontaneous cinematic moments when everyone's doing their job. As a longtime player, this is one of the things that I appreciate about Battlefield 6. It's not reinventing the wheel, it's just getting back to what worked. It's the closest the franchise has felt to its roots in a long time. Now let's talk about some of the bad things. We'll start with the UI, and man, this is something DICE still hasn't fully figured out yet. The menus and overall interface in Battlefield 6 just feels messy. There's too much going on visually and somehow not enough clarity where it matters most. In Redsec, this really stands out. The loot and inventory menus are clunky. Half the time you're looking at items to pick up, but it's confusing to tell what the item does or what it is at times, and it's just not smooth. Even things like pinging enemies or objectives can feel inconsistent depending on your angle or what surface you're pointed at. The visibility in general can be rough too. Between the hyper detailed environments and all of the lighting effects, it can be genuinely hard to spot enemies at medium to long range. I went through an extensive guide on getting all my settings set up correctly for maximum performance and UI fixes. I'm actually using the settings and config file from a pro player called Sablo on YouTube, as I do have a pretty outdated PC, and I will drop that config as well as the settings I'm using in the description. Now let's talk about progression, because honestly this has been one of the most frustrating parts of Battlefield 6 so far. The grind is real. It really does take forever to level up weapons, unlock attachments, or even make decent progression through the ranks. I get that DICE wants progression to feel meaningful, but right now it just feels like busy work. And if you're playing Redsec, it's even more noticeable. The matches can be really long, there's tons of downtime, and barely any XP unless you're finishing high on the leaderboard. It just doesn't reward you enough for the time you put in. The good news is DICE seems to be listening. They've already rolled out a few updates that boosted XP from match completions and daily challenges, and they reduced how much grind it takes to unlock the first batch of weapon attachments. Some assignments now unlock earlier too, which helps newer players get into the action faster. Now one of the last things that I really wanted to touch upon is the whole Call of Duty-fication of Battlefield. Now I don't disagree with this sentiment at all. I mean, the map sizes are smaller, everything is a bit more close quarters combat, and you know what? I get why they're doing that. You know, the industry wants to attract a larger, more casual player base, but as someone who's been with this franchise for 23 years, it's a bitter pill to swallow. Things that make Battlefield stand out, such as vehicles, I mean, they're still present, but their role is less central than in older titles. Naval combat is not even a thing anymore. There's very little variation in vehicles. I mean, they don't even have the Little Bird in this game. So where does this leave the franchise? The next step is pretty obvious, and from what I've been hearing from the community feedback, is the need to return to larger maps, refine tactical depth, and put vehicles back at the forefront of strategic gameplay. They need to bring things back like naval combat and add different types of vehicles like the Little Bird, but perhaps they will release these in the future, who knows. Now, one of the things that I'm really worried about as this game progresses over time with new updates is that we're gonna start seeing a range of different perks and abilities coming out. Perhaps it'll even end up like Apex Legends, Legends or even Rainbow Six as far as characters having all of these special signature traits and gadgets that you're gonna have to counter on the battlefield. I really hope they don't go that route, but only time will tell. The reality is life service mechanics aren't going anywhere. Battle passes, seasonal content, and cosmetics are here to stay, but there's a balance that needs to be struck. Gameplay should come first, monetization second, but come on, that's never gonna happen. After 23 years of playing this series, it's wild to see how far it's come. At the end of the day, Battlefield will always have that spark, and as long as developers remember what made it special, it'll keep evolving without losing its soul. So that's my take. I'd love to hear what you guys think after the hype. Are you digging Redsec, or do you miss the older sandbox style chaos? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys on the next one.